Judge Juan Merchan has amended his gag order so that Donald Trump can't threaten or attack family members now. It was understood by everyone except Donald Trump that that was already the case. But of course, Donald Trump, who maybe doesn't always cross a line, he walks right up to it and stomps on it. The same day that Judge Merchan did a gag order that basically essentially said you can attack everyone except the judge. I'm sorry, you can't attack anyone except the judge or the DA, right? The DA. You can't attack the parties, etc. And everyone understood because the family members was in there, but because of where it wasn't clear whose family member it referred to. And that day, Donald Trump came out and started posting and attacking the judge's family member, his daughter, his adult daughter. And he said some pretty difficult and vicious things about her, frankly, and accusations about her, like he does with everybody. And that's his MO, right? He always goes after the women, whether it's Judge Engoron's law clerk, or whether it's Tish James, or he loves to go after the women, right? It's like a pattern with him. And so what he did was he essentially said, you can't do it. But Trump comes out and does it. And so the DA's office, which makes all the sense in the world, asked for clarification, said, look, Judge, can you please clarify if your gag order meant to cover family members? We want to bring this to your attention, that what Donald Trump did and what he said, and can you please clarify? And so Judge Merchan very swiftly amended his gag order and clarified it and said the following. He said, the court's order of March 26, 2024 is amended and indicated below. Defendant is directed to refrain from A, making or directing others to make public statements about known or reasonably foreseeable witnesses concerning their potential participation in the investigation or in the criminal proceeding. B, making or directing others to make public statements about counsel in the case other than the DA. So you can still make statements about Alvin Bragg. He's a public official. That's fair game. Members of the court staff and the district attorney's staff, or the family members of any counsel, staff member, the court, or the district attorney, if those statements are made with the intent to materially interfere with or to cause others to materially interfere with counsel's or staff's work in the criminal case, or with the knowledge that such interference is likely to result, and making or directing others to make public statements about any prospective juror or any juror in the criminal proceeding. Other women he's gone after, right? He loves to go after family members, whether it's Jack Smith's wife, right? That's just his MO. He loves to try to get people and go to their Achilles heel. He went after, remember, Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss? He just has this thing about attacking women, and it's kind of outrageous. And so when he goes after the judge's daughter, of all things, it just makes no sense. So now the judge has clarified that the gag order does extend to family members of the court staff. Personally, I don't think you should be able to attack the DA or the judge. I don't think they're public servants. Yes, they signed up for the job, but they didn't sign up to have death threats and be attacked. So I personally think he could have and should have gone further, but he was careful and he allowed them to make those comments. Now, a lot of people are saying, okay, so now what? What happens if Trump violates it? What will happen? Now, that's a great question, because this means nothing, right? It means nothing if there's no teeth to it. So the question is, what are the options that Judge Merchan has if Donald Trump violates the gag order? And there are many options. So one is he can hold him in contempt, and that is found in Section 750, which talks about the power of the courts to punish for criminal contempt. A of that section, a court of record has the power to punish for criminal contempt a person who's guilty of the following acts and no others. Number one, disorderly contemptuous or insolent behavior committed during its sitting, in its immediate view and presence, and directly tending to interrupt its proceedings or impair the respect due to its authority. Now, I mention this not because it would apply if he violated the gag order, but this is what will apply if he tries to, if he acts out in court and potentially could harm the jury, right? The jury should only and can only hear relevant, admissible evidence that the judge rules is admissible. If Donald Trump tries to get his evidence in some other way by acting out in court the way he does, the judge can hold him in contempt for that, for the section I just read. Section 2 doesn't really apply. It's about breaching the peace. Section 3 is willful disobedience to its lawful mandate. So that would be what he could do, right? That's what the judge could do, is hold him in contempt. And what does that mean? He could punish him by a fine. It says not to exceed $1,000, and or imprisonment not to exceed 30 days in the jail of the county where the court is sitting. So given the fact that multi-million-dollar fines, essentially, right? When E. Jean Carroll was, when they awarded E. Jean Carroll $5 million in her case and in her defamation case, what does he do? He goes out and defames her again. So why do we think $1,000 is going to, if that's all that the judge can hold him in contempt? I honestly don't think that's going to make any difference whatsoever. And so the real question is, will Judge Merchan put him in? And if he holds him in contempt, that's what they would do to any other defendant. I know that so far nobody has done that. Nobody's done that or asked for that in any of his 4 pending criminal indictments. The other thing the judge could do is he could change bail conditions, because don't forget that Donald Trump, like all defendants who are released from custody, he's out on bail with certain conditions, and he will need to abide by those conditions. He could revoke the bail and put him in. He could set bail. He could do any number of things, amending the release conditions. He could say he can't travel. He could say, you could put him in home confinement, for example. Now, there's obviously a logistical problem because he's running for office, but I'm just giving you all the various things that he can do. So the DA's office was right to ask the judge for clarification. And in that clarification, they brought to the court's attention what Trump did, and Judge Merchan very quickly and very swiftly ruled and commented on this. But, look, one of the things he said in his decision and order is, look, his pattern of attacking family members of presiding jurists and attorneys assigned to his cases serves no legitimate purpose. That's in his order. It says it merely injects fear in those assigned or called to participate in the proceedings, that not only they, but their family members as well are fair game for defendants' vitriol. It is no longer just a mere possibility or a reasonable likelihood that there exists a threat to the integrity of the judicial proceedings. The threat is very real. The average observer must now, after hearing defendants' recent attacks, draw the conclusion that if they become involved in these proceedings, even tangentially, they should worry not only for themselves, but for their loved ones as well. So basically, the judge is saying very clearly that it serves no purpose to allow Trump to attack the judge's daughter or any other family members. And it is basically telling the world, if they allow this to happen, that if you get involved, even tangentially, he's just a judge who was assigned the case, right? These are just prosecutors. These are just public servants. You could be a juror. You could be a witness that somehow you and your family is going to be attacked. We saw in the Fani Willis hearing, the disqualification hearing, that before she hired Nathan Wade, she tried to hire a former governor, and he even said, a former public official who was a governor of a major state, he even said, I didn't want to sign up for this. Look what happens to your life when you prosecute this case, death threats, etc. So the judge is finally calling Trump out for this. He also says another something noteworthy is he says that defendant in his opposition of April 1st, 2024, when he opposed expanding or clarifying the gag order, desperately attempts to justify and explain away his dangerous rhetoric by, quote, turning the tables and blaming those he attacks. The arguments counsel makes are at best strained and at worst baseless misrepresentations, which are uncorroborated and rely upon innuendo and exaggeration. Put mildly, the assortment of allegations presented as, quote, facts and cobbled together result in accusations that are disingenuous and not rational. To argue that the most recent attacks, which included photographs, were necessary and appropriate in the current environment is farcical. So Judge Merchan is essentially telling Donald Trump and telling his lawyers, knock it off, or you are going to forfeit your right to be out on bail, by the way, there's other things he can do. He also told them that he will forfeit his right to have access to the jurors' names if he continues to engage in any conduct like this, especially if he threatens the safety and integrity of the jury selection process. Because if you recall, they get the names of the jurors, but he could limit that and make it an anonymous jury the way Judge Lewis Kaplan did in the E. Jean Carroll case. So they're putting what Judge Merchan is doing here is putting everybody on notice that I see what you're doing, and it has to stop. The games have to stop. And but we'll see if there's any teeth, and we'll see if Judge Merchan puts him in, because that's the only thing that will work if Donald Trump continues to behave this way. So Trump is now gagged. He can no longer go after family members. And let's see, it's starting to ratchet up, and the trial is starting very, very soon. I'm Karen Friedman Agnifilo with Legal AF. Thank you so much for listening, and join us every Wednesday and Saturday with my co-hosts Michael Popak and Ben Meiselas.
Heary, heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know, and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.